We're fine. We're on time.
Good morning and welcome to Green Cow. It's another exciting, actually, it's a beautiful day in Chicagoland.
It's a
Little
little
cool,
chilly, but it's bright and sunny. So bright and sunny that on the way here, my kid kept making me like reposition the sun visors.
Okay then.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. Welcome. As always, please let us know what is going on with you today. If you have some exciting good news to share, we would love to hear it. If you're watching on the replay, leave us a hashtag replay. If you're watching live, let us know that you're here with us live. Say hi. And
That's a lot of stuff.
yeah.
Just tell us what kind of coffee you have.
Tell us. I have McDonald's today because it was on the way here at only
That's
$1.
iced coffee. That doesn't even count.
Oh my goodness, iced coffee is the only way to drink coffee. I think that is going to be the next coffee war right there. Iced coffee is the only way to drink coffee. All right. Well, good morning, people who are watching. Say hi. Let us know that you're here. Let us know something good that is going on with you this week. What is good that is going on with you this week? Anything?
I found the live video.
He found himself finally. No. It's been a while, but we've been waiting. So seriously, what's something good that you've got going on this week? I'm putting you on the spot like I do all the time.
I'm happy to talk about good things happening. I am working on becoming a facilitator of the Virtues Project, and it's a lot of work. And I lost 4 days of writing. Yes. It was the day before yesterday. As I packed up to go home, I closed the file and poof, it's gone forever.
I think all of you guys who I see that there's some people watching on my Facebook page right now, and I know I have a large audience of writers, so they can commiserate with that. Actually, one time in college, I was writing a final paper that was like the entire grade, right, for the class, and I was writing it in a computer lounge in a dorm. And their computers were set to, if you turn them off, they erased everything on them.
Oh, yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah. And so I went to lunch. I was only gone 5 minutes to just pick something up. I came back and someone had restarted the computer. And there it went, my entire final project.
So what did you get in that class?
I got an extension and then I got an A, so it was okay. But it was still like I had to redo the whole thing and I lost hours of work. And so the lesson that you learn is always back up your work, right?
Yeah. But I'm not going to talk about that. So today I get to redo
tip for the day.
4 days of work.
Yeah, I think we've all been there though. But hey, at least you have the opportunity to do it, right?
I guess. I don't have a choice.
At least you got an extension.
I don't get an extension.
All right. Well, good morning, people who are watching. Please say hi. Leave us a little. You can just hit the like button. You can hit the heart button. You can say what your favorite kind of coffee is. And if you believe iced coffee is the only way to drink coffee, that is accurate and true.
Hey, look what I did.
And Lee's hearting himself, which is like not really social media etiquette there, but okay.
Blah blah blah.
Like all your own posts. All right. Well, I'm going to today we have some stuff to talk about with Career Chat Friday. We're going to kind of go back into what we've been talking about for a little while, which is what to do if you're not happy with what you're doing for your work or for your career. And Stacy says,
hi, Stacy.
Coffee is life. Absolutely. Iced coffee. Now, sometimes I will drink warm coffee. Here's something that's really weird about me is that I really like to be warm, but I don't like warm drinks. So, I mean, I sometimes will like a warm drink, but not often. But I will purposely like not eat lunch. Like I will delay eating lunch because what I brought was cold, or what I want to eat is cold, and I'm too cold to eat it. He thinks I'm weird, and he's probably right.
Probably is.
So I'm going to stop giving lunch advice, and I'm going to go into talking about what we're actually here to talk about. How about that?
Oh, career chat.
Career chat, yeah. So we've been talking about what to do if you're not happy with what you're doing for your career. And I have said before that if you just have a negative feeling about, a lot of times people come to me and they'll say, I'm really unhappy with my job. And I'll say, okay, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And they usually go into really specifics. Well, on this day, this happened, and this person was this way, and I had to do this, and I didn't like that. So the problem is they're really specific, like, examples instead of, okay, so what's the overall problem here? Because we're all going to have little things that we don't like about what we do or that get frustrating. I mean, we were playing with MailChimp yesterday, and that was especially enjoyable. That was sarcastic. So, I mean, we're all going to have those things, but I find it kind of interesting that this is the trend, that when I ask people who are seriously contemplating making a career shift so much that they've hired me to help them with it, the answers that I get are like little minute things.
How often are they people?
Always people. Oh, you mean people? Like always people? I don't really have any cats or dogs. How often is it people?
Yes.
I mean, I'd say a lot of times it is people, and we've kind of talked about that already, although I was thinking about doing another show on that. But we've talked about that more recently enough that I kind of didn't want to go into that today. Because often it is, working with difficult people, and we've had a conversation about working with difficult people. But I wanted to, so often that is something. But the challenge is that they don't know it all. They just don't know. They don't have a specific reason that they don't like what it is that they're doing. So I usually ask people to break it down into, is it the actual work that you're doing that you don't like? Like you are, I don't know, give me a job.
Plumber.
You're a plumber and you don't like the work of plumbing. You just don't like it. The work that you do, you don't enjoy it anymore. That's kind of, for me as a teacher, it was sort of that. I did enjoy working with my students. But when I left teaching, I knew the actual teaching work, I was done doing that. There were other things too, but it wasn't that, I guess I would say, it wasn't that I didn't like it. I just knew I was done with it. And my time doing that was over. So that might be, maybe you're getting tired or burnout, or you just want to try something new. The actual work you're doing isn't working for you. So that's one thing. It could be people. The people that you are working with, that you're getting really frustrating. You're working with a lot of difficult people, or as I've mentioned before when we've had these shows, I don't want to say never. We all can think of somebody that we would say is a difficult person, but I would venture to guess that there are fewer difficult people in the world than there are just different people.
Oh,
so
different.
And so I want to, when someone says I work with some really difficult people, a lot of times I don't want to just say this because I have empathy for that situation, but I always want to ask, are they really difficult people, or are you just not you don't quite fit into the culture of this place? It just doesn't, or
your communication styles don't match up.
Or you're just and so a lot of times I used to kind of say there are not really any difficult people. I think there are difficult people, but I would say more times than not, it's the combination of people. It's not one person who is a difficult person. It's a combination of people. So sometimes that's a situation too. And then I said, is it the money? And you like what you do. You're okay with the people. It's just that you're not getting paid enough. So that can be it for some people too. And then the one we're going to talk about today is the environment that you're working in. So sometimes it's, like what I do, I'm okay with the people, or maybe I don't even work with that many people, Maybe I'm mostly on my own, which I like, and I'm okay with that. And I'm getting paid enough, but I just really don't like the environment. And most of the time when I hear this, it's about people that want to work from home and are being told they can't work from home. And this was really big right around this time last year when most places were actually going to work from home. When the pandemic first started in March of last year in the United States, and many companies were sending people home, but still, some places were not allowing their employees to work from home, even though they felt that they could do the job 100% from home and it would make things easier. And so a lot of times too, this part of this has to do with commute also. Some people are like I like where I work. I like the people that I work with, but like, I don't want to sit in traffic for 2 hours, which, yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that.
No. And so that's sort of where, so if you've ever had that experience, I would love to hear from you guys. Like, if you have ever had that experience where the environment that you were working in was super, there was a challenge there, or it was just a really good environment too. We'd love to hear about that also. And that can, a lot of times it is that working from home thing, but sometimes there's other things that come into play too. Like, maybe it's just super uncomfortable where you're working. I remember one time when I was at Purdue, I had a huge office, which I absolutely loved because you could take naps in it. And I was usually there like all day long. But there was this pipe, and it would always make this horrible noise, and I was like, nothing would drown it out, and I just like didn't even want to be in there, so I would end up going somewhere else, usually sitting outside. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry. So he got perfect timing, and Becky was behind us when he was scrolling. So that's awesome. So
Nice.
I'll say here then, if you want to be on the screen behind us and you want to know how to make that happen, leave us a hashtag sponsor. Click the link to book a call, and we can tell you more about that. So, but yeah, we'd love to hear more about if anybody has had an experience with environment where it's become like a really big contributor to your productivity, or if it was a really big drawback to your productivity. And we'll talk a little bit about what you can do about that.
Hey, you mentioned some people, because of COVID, are working at home and it works out really well, but
some people it doesn't, like me.
Well, yeah, no, that's not the situation exactly, though. It's their company is going back to having people at the building, and they're not allowing them to work remotely, even though they could do their job just as well or even better from home.
Yeah.
That's a strange situation, but I get it,
Matt Dooley's here. Sorry. Matt Dooley's here dropping laugh bombs, so I'm really paying attention to you. All right,
Good morning, Matt.
I'll read that
Always
in a
nice
minute.
to hear from you.
So you were saying with COVID, some people are being forced to come back to the office when they feel like they could do their work from home.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a tough spot to be in. I don't think I'd want to do that.
I can think of a couple of specific examples, maybe not necessarily COVID related. This was actually pre-COVID, where people were fully capable of doing their work from home, and their direct superiors were fully understanding of that. But because of company policies, they weren't allowed to be at home. Fortunately, for a lot of people, and by the way, I see that 7 people are watching. I know one of them is Lee. I know one of them is Matt. I know one of them is Stacy, and one of them is Jerry. But whatever math I didn't do, you need to say hi. So say hi.
Just click on that little heart button.
Little heart thing. Say something.
So this is a social faux pas.
Stop it. Oh my
There
goodness.
it goes.
I'm glad that he doesn't have the nuclear access codes. Hi, KJ.
Good morning, KJ.
What does this do? Well, you just blew up Utah. Thanks. Oh goodness. Okay, so we have a good morning. That was Chris.
Chrissy. Good morning, Chrissy.
So yeah, I want to say, fortunately, for most of the people that I've worked with, who were in that boat with wanting to work from home and they couldn't, COVID has been positive in that the companies actually saw a lot of the value of people working from home. So even when they're bringing people back in the office, it's been for many of the people, I don't want to say most, many of the people that I specifically have worked with, they have more opportunities to work from home or elsewhere now than they did in the past because of companies seeing the value of allowing people to work remotely. So that's good. There are still, though, some people who are being called back into the office and they feel like they can do their work from home. And that's a little frustrating. And then on the other side of things, there's people like me. I absolutely hate working from home, and I would do just about anything to avoid it. In fact, I would probably rather work in a Starbucks. I know I would rather work in a Starbucks. You can get 50-cent refills on your iced coffee, just so you guys know. But but that was a challenge that a lot of people face too. People who were used to working from Starbucks and stuff like that. A lot of those places have been closed. You can't just sit there and work with a laptop anymore.
Even today?
It depends. McDonald's are still 100% closed. I used to work at McDonald's a lot just because it was more convenient for me. And yeah, Panera is one. Matt just said Panera. Panera is one that is open and has stayed open throughout the pandemic. So that's good. Although some Paneras are like super busy at certain periods of time. Like you can't even get in there. Some Starbucks are open inside and you can actually sit down. Some are not. In the summer, some of those places will open their outdoor, and some of them actually do have outlets that you can use outdoors. Yeah, nice. But not, yeah. So it just depends. In Illinois, Indiana, that's where we're at. There are big differences. Other states similarly. So that's kind of a challenge. So what can you do when you're faced with some of those issues? Well, first of all, what I want to say is a lot of times when people come to me, they've become so frustrated by these things that they're just kind of like, that's why when I ask, okay, so what's going on that you're looking for, you want to change jobs, and they can't give me specific answers. They're giving me little like anecdotes. Like, well, this happened on Tuesday and there was this guy, and okay, but like in big picture here. And the reason for that, I think, is because they've gotten so frustrated by it. And so what I think a lot happens with a lot of people is they are actually very uncomfortable. But number one, they don't take the time to break it down to see, like, if it is the environment, that it really is the environment. They just know that they don't like the situation. So that's why I always ask people to start by breaking it down. You know, is it who you're working with? Is it what you're doing? Is it what you're getting paid? Is it where you're at? So they don't do that. And then number two, maybe they identify that it's the environment or the commute or something like that, or they want to be working from home, but they just wait. They don't do anything about it for so long until they get really frustrated, and then they're just about done. So the first thing that I would say is don't do that.
Just don't do that.
Don't do that. So like even if it's a fairly new situation and you've identified that there's a problem here, speak up about it sooner rather than later. I would say, there's different ways that you can do that. Sometimes it's just a matter of asking. Sometimes, I've worked with other people too that I've said, well, why don't you just ask if you can work remotely? And, that's an option, but they just never did. Really? People just, they just don't feel like it's something that they can talk about.
Okay.
Right. But if you do that, I would always say have some reasoning to back it up other than just,
I don't want to get dressed in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. I want to wear pajamas. I like my cat. But yeah, have something to back it up. There are a lot of studies out there that say companies that allow their employees to work remotely for part of the time will actually have a lot of benefits in terms of productivity. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of those same studies say that people full remote also has drawbacks for companies, but when it's like a flex schedule where you're in the office part of the time and then working remotely other parts of the time, a lot of studies show that that's, for many organizations, it's like the best
I can see that.
situation. Yeah. So, I mean, you can find that kind of stuff out there. And then whenever you need to present a case like that to your employer, you always have to have something other than just because I like it. Remember, like they might like you, but at the end of the day, can you do your job better somewhere else? Or if you had certain accommodations. And that's another thing. I was recently in a conversation with someone, and I don't want to go too much into this specific situation. And, Matt's here. He's an attorney. He knows like there are certain accommodations that your workplace is supposed to make for you in certain situations, right? Like when you have medical issues and other things going on. And sometimes certain companies will do that a lot easier than others. And
there are lots of reasons for that too.
There are lots of reasons for that. But I think the big takeaway, I guess, that I can say without going into specifics about this one situation that I was helping someone with is, again, say something and have your reasons to back it up and look up, the relevant policies and laws and those kinds of things, like actually do your homework. And a lot of times when those situations happen, people tend to get kind of emotional, and bringing a lot of that into your, reasoning isn't going to help. So I know that it's really hard in some of those situations when you feel like, you're, especially when it's a situation you're already struggling because you got a medical issue, and, then there's people that are giving you a hard time about it. But it's best if you can find somebody to talk to about that, like who's your counselor or your friend. And then when you're ready to make your case to HR or whoever, you just the facts. And so that's, yeah. So
do you think the emotional way of approaching that ever works? Or?
No, I don't really think it ever works. I mean, I think that there's a real need to express how you feel about it, because I understand that it can be very frustrating. And if you don't have someone to express that to, that's not good. I mean, you need that. But when you have to bring those kinds of things up, it's one of the biggest issues that I see is that people, number one, they bring some kind of emotion into it, or number two, their reasonings are all about them and not about the organization. So instead of looking up like, this is what you are supposed to provide to me under law or based on your own policies and procedures, it's about what I need. And that just doesn't help. It doesn't work. It's not a great way to make a case. So I see that a lot too. And it's funny, some of the similar things come in when I work with people who are asking for raises. It's like, well, I have these kids and and I'm like, I understand, because I do too, and they're stinking expensive. I mean, my kid asked me the other day if I can download this app that says it's free, and then to actually play it, it's like $72. I'm like, no. Well, that's also an option. No. But
and Matt, my advice for you is just say no.
What? Oh.
He confronted his boss about working for such a terrible boss.
Oh.
And there was lots of yelling and profanity, and he decided to make this case in the lobby at church. So,
well, Matt up here said before that he works with horrible people because they create a toxic work environment. It's me, myself, and I.
Yeah, so
we're terrible coworkers.
Yeah, don't confront your boss in the church lobby, and don't.
Especially if your boss is yourself, because that's a little weird.
And that's the case. So everybody who doesn't know Matt here, keep the context here in mind.
Matt's going to end up as like a 24-hour lockup or something. No. But I do want to say, it is really true, the amount of people that I work with who, when they're trying to make a case for a different environment or for a raise or something like that, almost all the evidence is about what they need.
Ooh,
and it's
bad idea, especially for the raise thing.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. Did you talk to them about the value that you're bringing?
Mm-hmm.
No, I need more money.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because it should never be about that I need more money. It should never be about that I need more money, that when you're asking for a raise. And similarly, when you're asking for a change in the environment, it can't just be because I don't like this. It has to be about, how you're going to end up bringing value, and what you can give to the employer, and why a better schedule or environment or whatever it is will work better for you to be able to bring that. Matt says, even before COVID, I knew many offices in Chicago that allowed you to work from home a few days a week. Yeah. So what's interesting is that a lot of companies that are maybe more progressive are looking into a lot of this research about like employee happiness and productivity and all of that. And I know some people that were working for companies where they were bringing in lunch, and they had time that they had a gym there was this place in Chicago, and they had a gym on the grounds and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. And there are more, and that's kind of where I get into when you're applying for a new job, it's your job to be interviewing the company as well as them interviewing you. You need to see what kind of culture this is. I have known a lot of people who were trying to aim to work for certain companies just because they knew that the employee culture was really supportive and it was a good and fun place to work, whereas other places not so much. So there's things that you can do. And so Matt asked a minute ago, like, what's better for people if they're going to work with me or if you're going to work with a career coach? What should you do? What do you need to think about? Well, that's one of the things that you can think about is what kind of a place would you like to work? Like what does the culture look like? What's important to you? What values are important to you? Because then something that I can do is help you figure out what questions to ask and what to look for. And you guys don't even have to do it in the interview. You can do it with LinkedIn. Just like depending on like who you look up and like what they are saying and what they're doing. Those are some things that you can do. But yeah, it's really important too. Like you have your own homework to do. So many people, it's just like my kids and like the teacher failed me. Like the teacher failed you. Did you do your homework? No. Did you study for the test? No. I'm like, well.
It's the teacher's fault.
Teacher failed you. And so many people will be like, oh yeah, my boss is horrible or the place I work is awful, and they just want to blame everything on them. But it's like, did you actually do your research before you agreed to work here? Like, did you see if this place was going to line up, like their values? Do they line up with your values? Is the environment a place that you would want to work in? Now, I know not everybody has that luxury. If you end up losing your job and you're living paycheck to paycheck and you need to find something else right away, you have less flexibility, I guess, than other people.
Yeah, one of the things that you said suggested that maybe people need to look at their personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Maybe they really need to look at themselves and say, just who is exactly responsible for the situation I'm in, and who's responsible for my attitude every morning when I get up. And
that's true too. Yeah. There's a lot we get in almost every area of your life. You can get trapped into that. Like if I only had $1,000, if I only had a better job, if I only lived in a sunnier place, if my kids would only, that was mine. I was like, when William turns 4, I swear he's going to be normal. And my life will be okay. Actually, he is like in the last 3 months, actually the last like 2 weeks, I've noticed he is like seriously growing up. I'm like, what? You got dressed by yourself? Like I feel like I'm on vacation, right? But we can get caught in those traps of like, if I only had this, that, or the other. What's interesting about genuinely or generally, I always get those two words. Generally positive people, sometimes people who are generally positive, when it comes to their workplace, they shift. And then everything is, well, I'm a generally positive person and I'm a fun, happy person, but like I hate my job and it just sucks. And, that's okay. It sucks. But I'm going to be, everything else is good. And I think, again, I've said this before, But I feel like our culture kind of supports that. Like in a lot of pop culture stuff, people hate their jobs.
Us versus them thing.
Yeah, and it's also just like people just it's okay to hate your job. It's okay, like that's normal, that's expected, and that's not
okay.
So I wouldn't say, I don't want to go into like, I do think the personal responsibility thing is important here because, you do have to do your homework. When you're asking for a raise, you have to do your homework to present your case. When you're asking for an environment change, you have to do your homework to present your case. And that's another thing to answer Matt's question here. Like if you're not sure how to do that, that's where somebody like me can come in to help you, because that's totally okay to not know how to do that. It's just not okay to go in and say, you need to make all these changes because I like this and I need more money. My kids do that, and then I say, no, you need to get out of the bathroom. Why? Because I want to do my makeup. Like, what? No. I was here first. But yeah, it's what's important
Good
is
point, Matt.
Well, and let's get to Matt in just a second, but the personal responsibility thing, that is important. And again, if you don't know how to do that, that is where someone like me can come in and help. And that's okay if you don't know how to do that. But I also don't want to go into like blaming here. I mean, it is, again, it's really common for people to just kind of go like floating down the river from this job to that job, whatever, they wait until they get fired or they get an offer from somewhere else, and there's not really much intention put into it. They wait till their position gets eliminated or they get a call from a recruiter and it's, an extra $10,000 a year. And of course they're going to take it. But they don't do any research, and they just kind of, go with the flow instead of really being intentional about making a shift. So yeah,
that's one way to do it. It seems like
it is. Yeah,
complicates life a bit.
So Matt says people make it seem like it's so easy to shift or to complain about not, and that's true. And they do. There's a lot of complaining without doing anything about it. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is that if you're not happy, there are other ways. You don't have to just sit there and be unhappy.
That's probably not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Overall, that's going to grind you down and make you a bitter person, not a better person.
I'm thinking about that bitter, better, butter war from Dr. Seuss. Okay. So our reading of The Cat in the Hat will be next week.
Perfect.
But Matt said about you're seeing the best and worst of people's lives on social media. Yeah, that's another thing too. A lot of people compare themselves. I think, when it comes to your career and your what you're doing and your workplace and all of that, you're comparing yourself to what other people are posting on social media. And again, that's not accurate. First of all,
it's interesting that he made that point because people do tend to post the best and the worst, but you don't see a lot in the middle.
No. Well, you do, but then it's not very interesting. So they.
That's.
I did my laundry today. 5 stars. Yeah. And we've talked about being intentional about what you post on social media too. So there's a reason for that. But people are quick to complain on social media. And I think, again, a lot of this comes down to like what I was saying about emotion.
I'm a people.
You're a people?
Yeah, I don't complain
on
social
people. Media. Are you sure you're a people? Because we had a discussion about the possibility of you being a computer. We're not 100% sure that. There are some instances when you wonder if it's not just a really well-developed AI over here.
Okay.
But I have some ideas of how to test it.
Anyway.
But like what I was saying about if you're really emotional, when you're trying to make appeals to your employer and things like that, I think a lot of this stems from people just like I say about on social media, finding the right place to talk about things.
Mhm.
Finding the right place to talk about the stressors and things like that you're feeling about your career. I mean, I don't mind listening to that kind of stuff from my clients mostly, although I will tell them, like, I'm happy to hear about it because sometimes it helps me, but I'm really not the right person. Like, you know, in certain situations, maybe, but like, that's where I'm going to suggest that you reach out to Stacy or somebody like Stacy. Stacy's our therapist here, and she's fantastic. And she's really great about providing answers and like tools, even like little tools with just, even if you have a little question. So if you have something that you're struggling with in terms of like dealing with a challenging work environment, post something in our group, and I can try to tag Stacy because she has really just great tools. But again, you know,
some of her tools are great big tools, right?
Oh yeah, she also has horses, but which is wonderful, and that can be a great way of dealing. There she is behind us. That can be a way to deal with stress too. But also, just she has little techniques that anybody can use that I think has been really helpful to me, and I've seen it be helpful to other people. But that's true. Like, you know, making sure that you're talking to the right person, having somebody that you can talk to when you have something you need to, you know, get off your chest, or something that you're struggling with, and you know, making sure that you have that person, and then other people, you know, when you have. You know, you bring in the right things to the right people, essentially, and not posting everything on social media. You're not taking everything to your employer. You're not, you know, you have the right people to talk about certain things. Oh, our mouse friend is back.
Good morning, Mark. Our mouse friend?
Yeah, the one that lives in the wall. And we think there's a little critter in the wall, and I've named him Barvin. Because I think he's a mouse, but it's just a lot easier to yell at him to be quiet when he has a name. So, like, if I'm sitting here trying to think, and all of a sudden I hear, Marvin! Shh! Trying to think.
Marvin. Huh?
His name is Marvin. I figured he's a mouse, but I don't know if he is. All right, well, if you
want to cut one of those little cartoon hole things.
Give him a piece of cheese. Yes. Marvin the Green Cat Mouse. He's going to be our new mascot. Well, good morning, Mark. Thank you for joining us. I think Mark is doing a budget boot camp this week. So
nice.
He has been live at 9, which is the same time that we're live. So if we go a little long, he can jump on. But he's been doing his budget boot camp. So that's really exciting. And that's another thing too, you know, when we've talked about, are you unhappy with the work that you're doing? One of those things that we'll talk about in another week is that, do you like the work, but the concern is like, you just don't feel like you're getting paid enough? And somebody like Mark can help with that too, because it might not necessarily be that. It might be that you have too many expenses, or you're not managing your money well, and that kind of thing. Maybe. I went to McDonald's today. It was $1. Actually, I think this was free because I had points. So
yeah, that
free
suggests that you already paid for it.
Go away. All right. So Mark just finished his last day of the boot camp, which is exciting, but I think he's probably got another one coming up. So Mark is a great person to ask about those kind of money questions. So Matt says, if someone wanted to work with me, what's the process for someone who hates their job and wants to shift? Well, we have a link, and you can book a call, and we can talk about that kind of stuff. And that's also the same link you can use if you want to be a sponsor. But yeah, it really depends on the situation, because that's one of those things that, you know, we kind of got to work on, is what is the hate that you're hating, right? You know, and what are the other options for you? So I did a show on Monday on learning and development. I don't know if you guys caught it, but the reason I did the show on learning and development is because so many people don't know that that's even a thing. And so I'll say to them, have you ever thought about going into learning and development? This is great for somebody that used to be an educator or that's a specialist in some way. So like, you work in computer engineering or healthcare, but you don't want to do that thing anymore. like you want to teach other people how to do it. And there's a lot of space for that kind of stuff in learning and development right now. So that's another, sometimes we can pick it apart. Like I've been working as, I've been a nurse practitioner for 40 years, but I just don't want to constantly see patients anymore. Well, there's ways that you can use those skills to do something else where you're not in that environment that you don't want to be in anymore. So, and then Matt offers the helpful advice that we could just sue everybody if we want to. So, that's also there.
This is America.
I don't like the way your cologne smells. Gonna sue you. No, that's kind of like
let's not go down
my
that
kids
path.
again. Like I have a 7th grader, and she said to me before, like, well, I had this issue at school. Can't you just talk to the principal? I'm like, no. You could solve the problem. But no, I'm not going to be one of those parents. So I think maybe that's where it comes from, suing everybody. We start by everybody has to talk to the principal. I'm glad I'm not a principal.
Okay, well, we've gone a little over time, as we so often do. Hope you don't mind. Thanks for being here. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for participating, because not only are you participating right here, right now, you're often helping other people who have the same questions and they haven't gotten to the point where they can ask them. So thanks for doing that.
And so if you're watching on the replay, leave us a #replay. We love to hear your comments and all of those kinds of things.
And remember, because I know how to do this now.
Stop. He keeps liking or hearting our own. I don't think it even lets you anymore. Oh, man, it is. All right, everybody who's not Lee, give us a heart so that like the Facebook algorithm doesn't hate us for hearting our own stuff. So, those who want to get paid more teach others your skills. Yeah, that's true. At some point, I think we all get a little bit, well, maybe not everybody. There's a lot of people that do the same thing for 30 or 40 years and they enjoy it, and that's okay. But I think the big thing is just if you're not happy where you are, then it's time to go somewhere else.
Or at least talk about it.
Yeah, or at least make
it and find out why you're not happy.
Yeah, it's just not okay to be constantly unhappy and complaining about it.
That's just not good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, thank you all. Today in Chicagoland, it's a beautiful, sunny, cool day, but it's still only March, right?
You think? March. Is it still March?
I think it's still March.
Ooh, then they still have Irish cream donuts at the donut place.
There you go. You still can get Irish cream donuts.
They have frostings. Donut place in Chesterton.
All right. Go get it, everyone. All right. We will talk to you soon. Do something nice for somebody else today, and a whole bunch of people if you can. And I know some of you can. So do some nice things for lots of people. And we will talk to you soon.
Yep. And if you have some questions or you'd like to talk to us about anything related to business or career, you can send us a message or you can book a call on that new fun link that I created. And I'm so proud of myself for doing.
Yeah, it's in the description, isn't it?
It is in the description. And then if you're Mark, if you're interested in being a sponsor, hey Brandon, thanks for catching the last minute here. Go back and listen to the replay because we'd love to have your comments. If you're interested in being a sponsor and getting your picture and your business name and all of that on the screen behind us, plus a bunch of other perks that you'll find out about later, you can click that link to book a call, or you can leave us a #sponsor. And we'll leave with this comment. Mark said that if you're unhappy, his daughter told him that you should eat a troll. So that's not going to make sense to you if you haven't seen the movie Trolls.
Oh.
Which I know he probably hasn't seen. See, this is an example of the AI right here. It's like you can tell which movies he has a script for. All right, and please vote if you think Lee is a real person or if he's a well-developed AI. Let us know what you think about that, and I'll come up with other ways to test the algorithm. There's
a Netflix series called Travelers.
I don't know.
You want some insight? Go there.
All right. Okay, are we done?
We're done. Make this a great day, and if you need to, find a troll. And
Don't be a Gorgon. Come on.
What's
Those
a
are the
Gorgon?
people that eat the trolls, or the beings that eat trolls in the Trolls movie.
Okay.
If you'd like to educate Lee on the Trolls series and movies, just send him a message.
Really necessary.
Book a call. We can talk about that. Don't be a Gorgon. That's our newest hashtag for the day. They're very sad. Like they're sad and their lives are horrible. And
So they eat trolls.
They eat trolls one day a year on Trollstice.
Huh?
On Trollstice.
Is there a summer and a winter trollstice?
Just once a year. See, sometimes when I explain these things, I'm like, wait, people got paid for this. It makes you wonder. Like, I bet I can write children's movies for Hollywood. All right.
Okay. Well, again, make this a great day. We will talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.